What's up, comic and pop culture fans? This is James from Midhunter Comics, and we're going over the Batman New 52 statue by Sideshow and Prime 1 teaming up. And it took me so long to do this review because honestly, I was really lazy, and this thing is really heavy, and I didn't want to bring it down. I'm barely fitting into the frame of this shot because this dude is wide, deep, and tall as hell, especially for a quarter scale. We'll come back to that. You should note, it's one of my favorite statues ever, and the community lists it as one of the best quarter scale Batman statues out there. Does it live up to the hype? We're gonna dive in. Before I do that, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment below. Every time you comment, it enters you in a raffle. First place is gonna win a statue, Batman vs. Killer Croc, excuse me. Second place is going to get a CGC 9.8 of Ragman number 1. And our third place is going to get a Titans Batarang from the Titans show. Guys, usually at this point I do a backstory on the character, but it's Batman. Do you really need this? Fine. Batman is an extremely rich orphan that likes to punch penguins and crocodiles in the face. Without further ado, let's get into this statue by starting off talking about his base. Alright, so let's talk about this, since I think it's one of the greatest bases I've ever seen. Yes, it can look like it's a little bit muddied by similar colors, but I like the inclusion of all the different elements here. You've got Gargoyle to the right, the main Gargoyle in the middle, and your Gargoyle to the left. Notice how it's sitting on an almost very Greek Gothic style of architecture, classic Gotham there. There is actually lots of different sprits and spots of colors in here that help differentiate it, which you really need when you're doing concrete bases, which a lot of times with Batman you get a lot of concrete. The gargoyles fit in nice and perfectly, and that could almost be a statue in and of itself. But obviously our main focus is on Batman. Going up here, I like the inclusion of these wings. They're actually a lot bigger than it looks like in this video. Moving along here, we got this awesome, I guess, broken window pane. Almost looks very Daredevil-esque. It looks like a broken church window in the back there. I'll spin it around in a minute so you can take a look at it. But this, even though it goes all the way up to the top of Batman, is worth noting as it is part of the base. I think it's really incredible. Alright, back of the base here. Here's a cool but unnecessary little bit of balcony there. I think that's pretty neat. Again, pretty unnecessary though. Pretty serious, and I like how that's either actual glass or acrylic. I don't know, but I actually had to kind of dust it off before I made this video. This is very tall, very impressive, and it's almost, let me see if I can show you. It's pretty much as tall as Batman. So that's pretty cool for a base to do something like that. I haven't really seen a base that goes up as tall as the character. It's very solid. You can actually touch it and you can feel the texture of this thing. It is a surprising amount of detail towards something that you're never gonna see. My only issue is there's some seam lines back here, but again, you don't see this. I do not love this sub base here. I would have much preferred if they brought this base theme down to the bottom and that's all it was sitting on. I do not like how the New 52 line has the logos of the members at the bottom. I don't like sub bases. I doubt I ever will. Other than that, it's a little wide. Now granted, the statue itself makes it wider, but you should know even the base in and of itself is very wide. So guys, it's one of the more impressive bases I've ever seen, albeit it's a little bit deep and a little bit wide. 10 out of 10. Let's get into the paint, sculpt, and colors. We'll start at his right boot there. And I dusted this before I took the video, but I couldn't quite get under here. It's kind of hard to with the cape being out there so much. But it looks good. One thing you'll notice, it's a more almost mech suit, not a fabric suit, which I actually like. That being said, there's a surprising limited detail, but I mean that in a good sense. Meaning it's not wires and stuff going all around. It's very simple in that it's a simple gray. All the shadowing is done in the right spots and done effectively. When I move around here,
Let's get a look at his bat dong and the awesome belt. I always like a good bat belt. I've seen over 15 Batman quarter scale statues. I've seen a few third scale statues in person, and this holds up. And this is no thanks to, or all thanks rather, to Prime One's excellent painting team. It's amazing that this is factory paint. It's incredible. I love the musculature on his thighs and legs here. Here's what I mean, where you get a little bit of the inner workings of the fabric, but it's not overly abundant. You know, it looks really good. Give me a quick shot of his back boot there, which does key into that structure. Moving up here, show you a good shot of the abdomen. I really appreciate the musculature on this piece. I want to save that head sculpt for last, so I'm going to come over here and show you a little bit more there. I like how there's almost a mesh sort of, almost like a chainmail type of action going on under his arm there. It could use a little bit more detail in here, to be totally honest. A little bit of differentiation to show that that armor is sitting on top. I think it falls flat a little bit right there. Hey, what are you going to do? Here's this arm. This is my more preferred arm. I like how classic it is. I like the metal bits on his knuckles. You don't want to get punched in the face by him on this. I like the scrapes on the metal of his gloves. It shows that it's not fabric glove, but rather something that you really don't want to get hit by. Moving on over here, we wind up with his right arm. Very impressive. Again, a little simple, I think you'll find on the arms. What I mean by that, it's no Brainiac. They didn't overload it with detail. It's quite simple. Here's your bat rope. Could have used a little touch of more detail on that. Really cool way of having his bat rope come out at you. I was a little worried about that wouldn't look too good, or that it wouldn't look straight, but it does. Actually, the bat rope looks really great from there. Alright, let's get close and zoom in on this face sculpt. There are two face sculpts for this statue. I am displaying it with the one that I will always be displaying it with. That's because this is the better one. The other one, there's nothing wrong with it, but this Grimace Face looks amazing, and I like his stubble here. I like their work on the teeth and the gums, and I love a good whited out eye portrait. The curves on his face show that he's angry, and you can always say, do you want a short-eared or do you want a long-eared Batman? And I always said I want it in the middle, and this is a nice perfect middle point for how his ears look. That's great. That's the ear length I like, the very David Finch, Jim Lee type. Actually, Jim Lee's Batman was a little short. Alright, moving on to this cape. I have a little bit of beef with this cape. Not really for anything other than it's so big. This cape, yeah, it's really big. It did not need to be this big. Yeah, it does base it off of a cover, but it wasn't this long on the cover, and it doesn't need to be here. It really takes up a lot of room, but it does look good. It is an interesting grainy texture. I actually tried to dust it, and I was having trouble getting all the dust out because it kind of sticks into the graininess. Super weird. But it does have blue notes in it that give it more than just being black, and I appreciate that. Overall, I think the sculpt and the paint are amazing. I think they did the best they could with the colors, but maybe there was room for improvement, either in the base or on the statue itself. It's not going to get the perfect score for colors, but it does come close. Batman statues often have an issue where there's just too much gray. For sculpt, we're going to go 10, paint 9, and colors 7. Now guys, we're going to talk about the design and pose. I consider this to be one of the most successful risks of doing a crazy pose I've ever seen pulled off. The pose would be nothing without the design on this piece, and it's a design masterpiece. It's a little bit tricky because it's kind of a two-person assembly, to be totally honest with you. He keys into the back right here with this big
wall window structure in the back, and you're actually going to need a wrench and everything to get him in there. It's a little bit difficult, to be honest with you. I wish I did an unboxing for you, but I unboxed this guy like 6 months ago, so unfortunately for an unboxing you might have to watch someone else's video. He is all one piece and he goes into the structure in the back here, but what's interesting is the cape actually also keys in to the structure back here. There is a slight gap on his right shoulder where it pops up a bit, so it's actually not that perfect. I didn't try the hot gun technique of taking a hair dryer and kind of like drying it down so you can sit it in. I don't love to do that if I don't have to. But what it accomplishes by being, it's a little difficult to screw into these places. What it does for us is amazing. It really looks like he's leaping out and firing his bat rope. The anatomy study this team did on a leaping body is perfect. And they also went off of the New 52 Batman #3 cover. So they used a little bit of that, maybe a little bit of a real life pose to judge this piece. It's one of the most dynamic and yet still natural looking pieces I have in my entire collection. How he's got the one arm back to brace himself with the other arm shooting forward. It just looks so natural to me. They really did a good job with this design here, and they killed it with the pose. I can't sing its praises enough. So guys, despite a difficult assembly, this piece takes a huge risk and it pays off. This thing is steady as a rock. It's got an excellent pose, one of the best I've ever seen, one of the hardest I've ever seen to engineer, and yet they killed it. We'll see in 5 years down the line if there's any lean or anything like that, but for right now, it looks like it's going to be here for a long time.
We're going to give that design a 9 out of 10 with a 10 for the pose.
I said at the start of the video that a lot of people consider this to be the best Batman quarter scale figure of all time. And while it's one of my favorite Batman statues ever, I can't agree with that because you know why? Prime 1 did it again. Overscaled, guys. This is not a true quarter scale at all. Take a look at this comparison between Batman's head and another quarter scale statue's head. This is how you can judge, there's a little bit of overscaling here. Now, for whatever reason, I have had 5 different statues that get this wrong from Prime 1. But what's truly interesting to me is the rest of the New 52 run from Prime 1 was not overscaled. What the hell happened with this one?
And while I think the Batman is easily the best of the New 52 line, what happened with the proportions?
My other question, if everything's digital now, when you make the sculpt, can't you just perfectly make sure it gets to the right size? I don't understand how mistakes like this happen. I really don't get it. I don't understand how all the quarter scales in the statue world can be the same, but Prime 1 keeps making them enlarged for no reason. Stop. You didn't used to do that. Just go back. So no, it's not the best quarter scale statue ever. It is one of the best statues ever in regards to Batman. A couple other things you need to know about these proportions, guys, is this cape is insanely long. He's also very tall. He's also very deep. This is a tough statue to display, I'll be completely honest with you. And there's the whole thing of if you put it with your other quarter scale statues, he looks too big. So you kind of have to have him in the background. Or, like how I have it, isolated, all alone, like the orphan he is. Once again, I find myself saying that Prime 1 has disappointed me with their proportions. I'm borderline never going to buy another Prime 1 statue quarter scale again. I'm getting so heated by this fact. It doesn't work with the rest of my collection. It really pisses me off.
I want Prime 1 to watch this video so bad. Guys, you can do so much better. Take a lesson. 5 out of 10.
Let's talk about that coolness and likeness. I think this is the most likeness accurate to Batman I've ever seen, other than those Queen Studios super hyper realistic busts going on. It really captures a David Finch / Jim Lee type of art here in the head sculpt. I'm so impressed with the head sculpts. They do use the translucent resin for what's very minimally seen of the skin tones, but it looks perfect. Some of the best skin tones you'll see in statues. I love this, especially for a quarter scale. I do have a strong bias. I think that the head sculpt that's grimacing is much better than the other head sculpt. Nothing's wrong with the other head sculpt, but this one is way better, which is why I got the exclusive version. Exclusive version also does come with another left hand holding kryptonite, but I think the whole Batman versus Superman thing has been so overplayed and so overdone that I just couldn't do it, despite the fact that the kryptonite looks amazing. I get a little tired of an over fluctuation of Batman versus Superman. Except the Injustice books. My God, they handled that well. It's also worth noting it is very accurate to the New 52 suit. I'm not the biggest New 52 fan, but it doesn't matter because this is one of the best modern looking suits you can possibly get, which when I have a Batman statue, I don't want the cloth look per se. I've already had a couple Batman statues with that. I want the cool mech suit that you really get from the New 52 suit. I think this is one of the best suits I've ever seen on Batman.
You know what? This is the best suit. Actually, wait, no, this is the best suit. Oh shit, maybe this? Definitely this one for sure. Oh, I forgot Justice Breaker. Y'all know what the real best suit is.
And one of the great things is you don't have to worry about it being overly New 52. It really just looks like the perfect statue of Batman. I think the inclusion of the bat rope being launched out of his grapnel gun is so freaking dope. It really gives it a whole nother 3D element to the statue that's so welcomed. And sometimes, guys, bigger is better. You know, he's got the firing gun shooting off to your face. He's got his cape billowing out to the side. It has a big, notable background. Because of that, it is very noticeable, and it does help it be cool. So all that bashing I did of its terrible proportions, well, it pays off in that it helps it be cool.
So let's go ahead and give that likeness a well-deserved 10 out of 10. Same with the coolness.
Alright guys, let's talk about the price for this bad boy. Believe it or not, as crazy as it seems with Prime 1, now putting everything basically over $1,000, even if it's the simplest statue ever, this, despite it even being the exclusive, was only $800. So this actually, you get a lot out of your money. Especially the amount of material, how heavy it is, the detail they put into this. It's a big win. It's a screaming bang for your buck. And like I said, if you don't collect any other statues, if this is the only statue you ever want of Batman, get it. Get this statue. It's the best one you can get for your money, and it is one of the best Batman statues ever. If you're collecting quarter scale, I would avoid it. I'll be totally honest with you, I would avoid it. If you're a stickler for your scale, this one's not going to totally match. He's not. But I cannot knock them for that price. $800, that is a steal, whichever way you look at it.
Arguably one of the best Batman statues and price. 10.
So guys, I think my hunt for the perfect Batman quarter scale statue is going to continue. I've got one from Sideshow coming. I have a custom one that I can't show that I'm really excited for. And I've got a couple others in the future that I might swing for. But for the most part, this is the best looking one, but it's not quarter scale. Let's tally up and give him his final score of... Guys, thank you so much for watching my video on the New 52 Batman. I want to thank so many of you for sticking around and watching all my videos and commenting below and just being so cool. The friendships I've formed, it's really amazing. You guys are awesome. This is my favorite community in the world. It's really a shame that I didn't do this earlier. I hope you dug my review of him. Hopefully you found it wasn't too harsh. I think I found that I mostly liked it in every category other than proportions. Let me know in the comments what you think of him, and let me know what type of videos you'd like to see in the future from me. I got a lot of ideas coming, but I always want to hear from you. Clearly, some of you have already noticed, I take your feedback pretty seriously. So it's an important part of my channel. You know, I always like to be evolving. So I appreciate you guys, your support, and your criticisms, everything. I love y'all, you know that. This is James from Mindhunter Comics, and keep on collecting.